Try now. Can you hear it now?
Watch the camera.
It's this. I can't use my recorder. We put all the splitters in, it's still just not working. It's just a bigger pain when I have to go take the disc from whatchamacallit. Because then I have to.
We can do that for this week, and then we can
Yeah,
try to figure out
yeah, we'll have to.
for the next time.
I figured that might be the only other. Let me do
Yeah.
it this way. Wait, let me
Because
try
we
this.
didn't have the recorder.
Let me try this input here. Let me see something. Oh, can you open that door for me, Mr. Montello? And I'm going to have them test it again in a second. The mayor locked us up. If I have it like this, can you hear it?
What's that?
I changed my input on here. I can hear you. You can? Okay, all right. I think I just needed to change my input. Thank you, everyone. Okay, good, thanks. I got it. I needed to switch my input on top.
Oh, okay.
Yep, yep,
Okay, good.
okay.
And the recording is very important, of course, I mean, because we have to do our minutes from that. So we have to have some, at
Yes.
least one recording out of all of them to do our minutes. And that's a requirement, so.
Okay, so you are ready for roll call?
We are ready.
Councilwoman Allen,
Here.
Councilwoman Brenner Miller, excuse,
Yeah, I'll go through.
you want to go through the rest?
Yes.
Councilman Linville,
Present.
Councilman Spitznagel,
Here.
Councilman Whedon,
Here.
Councilwoman Terlasky.
Here.
All of council here, except for Mary Brenner Miller. Our law solicitor is present, along with our fiscal officer, Angela Reve. Can I get just so it's on record, Mary did call. She had something that came up last minute that she's not available to make it here tonight. She's gonna try to go online, if possible. She apologizes for that. So she would ask me if I could ask council for a motion to excuse her.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to excuse Mary Brenner Miller from today's
Second.
COW.
Second.
Okay. Second by Councilman Linville.
Councilwoman Allen,
Yes.
Councilman Linville,
Yes.
Councilman Spitznagel,
Yes.
Councilman Whedon,
Yes.
Councilwoman Terlasky.
Yes.
Okay. Mary Brenner Miller is excused. Thank you, council. Item 3, comments related to agenda items or persons having business before council. Okay. Denny, oh yeah, come on up. Is it on? Yeah.
Denny Archive, 7120 Hickory. I want to talk about.
Can't hear you.
Yeah, be louder, a little bit louder. It's kind of a dull mic, so.
If we have to turn it up, we'll. It's pretty loud. You could pull it out of there, Denny, if that makes it easier. What was that?
Slide that out. There you go. There you go.
How's that? Hello? Hear me now?
I don't know.
Make your slider.
Check.
Hello?
Yeah, I don't know. Brian, did we do anything with that in the cabinet?
That's number 10.
Let me turn that.
It's number 10.
Yeah, let me
Yeah.
turn that up.
That should be number 10.
I might have turned it down when we were adjusting these.
Try now.
Hello? No, it's not working.
Right, that's right here.
Hello?
Oh, that's all right.
It's a separate, you know what I'm saying, so it's that separate one.
Here's what we'll do. Just hold on. over a year.
It's just a little disappointing because we did check all the
What I did
microphones.
before every meeting, I hope that.
I don't know. Did we check that one over there?
Yeah,
Huh.
yeah, I don't know what happened.
Hello?
He didn't hook you up yet.
He didn't hook you up yet, hold on.
Something. Hello?
I can hear you coming through the speaker a little bit.
It's faint.
Yeah.
Hello?
Must be that mic, right?
Yeah.
Or there.
Is there a battery in
No, I'm gonna just get, can we just get this and then we'll be able to have.
Have you used Mary's mic?
Yeah, we'll just take,
No, I can disconnect that mic. It's gotta be the cord. I think it's the cord on that. One more time.
do we got duct tape on there anyway?
No, but I'm
Like
not
like when I
gonna
accidentally suck up the vacuum cord, and then I have to tape it.
Hello? How about now? No?
Uh-uh.
No, it must be that mic then. I'll bring Mary's mic over here. Still had to do that. Here we
You
go.
better have a whole song to sing for us now, Mr. Harkai, after all this.
Yeah.
You gotta sing some show tunes now that you're up there.
I'm not giving up. The only thing is that's a little bit on an angle there unless you wanted to sit down and do it. Would that be better? I was just gonna make it easier by putting this up here. I didn't want it to slide out. What if you?
Try first.
That don't work with me, I'm serious.
You can hear the fuzz in that mic, but then nothing else after
Yeah.
that, yeah.
Hello?
Yay!
Yay!
You can sit down if you then if you wanted to.
Yeah, go ahead and sit, so the mic doesn't attack you.
Because I'm gonna have Shannon have to do the same thing, because I want him to be comfortable, so. Apologize for that. Go ahead, Mr. Harkai.
Old guys can get tired standing for too long anyway.
There you go.
All right. Thank you. I want to talk about community standards for our public square. As most everyone knows, a village master plan was written at considerable expense during the years of 2001 to 2002. I read through it, and the following 5 points are direct quotes from that document under what they called Focus Area 6.22, and they make direct reference to 1800 Alexander Road. Number one, and these are quotes from that document. Because the municipal complex, the heart of the community's governmental functions and a symbol of the village, is located at this relatively heavily traveled, visible intersection, a coordinated and well-maintained area appearance is critical, so as to project an overall positive community image to all who pass by. 2, numerous site conditions do not project positive impressions, and in some cases present problems that are function and safety related. Some access and parking improvements, coupled with some physical upgrades and basic maintenance, would go a long way toward a greatly improved appearance at this corner. 3, while aesthetic improvements to a retail property alone do not directly guarantee the enhancement of a community's tax base, they are certainly influential in improving perceptions and preserving/improving neighborhood and community character. 4, move the trash dumpsters to the south side of the building away from the adjacent residents to the east. Enclose the dumpsters as to screen them from view. sometimes I laugh when things aren't really funny. This is kind of a sad joke. 20 years, those dumpsters are still there today, along with other violations, including an illegally stored roller machine, etc. 5, they mention signs and advertising. They suggest business signs over windows for consistency, so that they relate physically better to the features of the building. For example, ensure a relationship between the outline of the sign and the outline of the window. And in bold numbers, in bold lettering, it was underlined, it said, reduce the number and consolidate the advertising signs on the door at the mini-mart. This all brings me to mention a message that I sent out by email on August 14th, where I said the following: hello, Mayor Colagraph and everyone else. And this included our lawyers and all council members, and Don Jordan was copied in as well. After the 16.5 years that I've been living in Walton Hills, it's somewhat encouraging to see that we are finally making some progress with improving the situation on our public square regarding the property and the building at 1800 Alexander Road. While we are on the case, now is a perfect time and opportunity to be sure that the entire mess is cleaned up, including all illegal signage. A quick review of our sign ordinances shows that obviously the deli and the dog groomer both have violations. I realize that we have a tricky and delicate situation on our hands if village officials were to confront either one of them, especially since this has been allowed to go on for years with no consequences. I agree 100% with Mayor Don, who can be quoted as saying that we must treat everyone the same. So this makes it even more challenging, because if Dan, that's our new restaurant, decides he wants a flashing sign, an illuminated moving sign, or for that matter, more signs, he could easily say, hey, you let the other tenants in my building get away with it, why can't I do the same? It is not ethical for the village to allow this to continue, because someone could easily accuse the administration of playing favorites. And we already have enough legal problems without allowing this to happen. Selective enforcement of our laws obviously cannot continue. So I'm asking everyone in our administration to give some thought to this subject and come up with a plan as to how to handle this dilemma, so that in the end, the village administration, the residents, and all the business owners come out as winners. It's extremely important to note here that I was not making a complaint, but rather specifically pointing out a situation and asking everyone in our administration to think carefully about all of this, and then to offer suggestions as to how to solve the problem. I remind everyone that while we should support our local businesses should support us by obeying our laws. And if we allow non-compliance to continue for some and not for some, for whatever lame excuse that can be thought of, the village will fail and soon become like some of our surrounding communities. Everyone knows that the only reason for a sign is to say, here's me, I got something to sell, or I have a service to provide, and I want you to do business with me. That being said, the deli has been there now for over 20 years. So by now, surely every one of his existing patrons knows that he's there, and they know for sure what he has to offer, and every one of them will continue to patronize him with or without all those illegal signs in the windows, in the parking lot, and on the door. He will not lose $1 of business, and he and the other tenants will in fact gain business because of the improved appearance of the property and the additional traffic generated by Dan's spot. I learned a long time ago that sometimes you might be surprised at what you can get if you just simply ask. And for all we know, with a kind, proper, and professional approach from our administration, he and the dog groomer may be willing to comply in the spirit of cooperation if they were just simply asked. I recommend we respect our standards and enforce them, starting with a quiet meeting with the proprietors. Certainly, the way to solve the issue is not by going into a business while the owner is trying to work and saying, here is a complaint about you from Denny Harkeye. This, however, is what Brian Spitznagel did. And as he said in an email dated August 17th, this is a quote from an email, I have taken action on your complaint concerning the deli and the pet grooming businesses located at the corner of Alexander and Walton Roads. I spoke to the owners of each business and at their request provided them with a copy of your complaint. Remember here that I was not making a complaint. He went on to say, I will also be speaking to the owner of the new restaurant. I will provide him a copy of your complaint and advise him to speak with our zoning inspector prior to erecting any signage. So you can be assured that they will be in compliance with the law. He is not the right person for this task, nor was his approach appropriate or professional for the job which needs to be done by a person or persons with legitimate, genuine authority, such as our mayor, our economic development person, our lawyer, or maybe even by all three. At this point, I do not think this is a job for our zoning inspector either. My recommendation is that we take action to ensure that we have an attractive and inviting public square. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Marquardt. Any other residents have, or persons, anything before council? Council have anything?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I would just like to say that when I read through the emails after I talked to Mr. Harkai about that, it was not in your original email that this is not a complaint. And the original email, to me, sounded like it was a complaint that he was making. But that statement was not in the original email.
It's up to council. I don't want to get into a debate,
Yeah, that's a
you know,
debate.
I mean,
But, whatever.
anybody else have anything related to that? I'll just mention a couple things. I think the paving in the parking lot looks nice. I think it definitely, we're heading in a good direction. As you know, we don't own the property, so you can have a master plan, which I was fortunate to be appointed to the master plan years ago and spent a lot of time as a resident on that plan. I wasn't in council. Many hours as a volunteer. One of my colleagues up here, Jennifer Allen, was also a member. And when I say hours, I mean countless hours. Very involved. So I know the master plan well. Great document, like any master plan. It's a guide. Certainly if we own the store, we can own the property, we can just go in there and do what we want. We worked very hard to, and the former administration, to get the easement to improve that corner, which we did with the brick walkway. That's an easement that had to be worked out with our legal department, also to put that in writing. So if you look back, is it going as fast as we would like? No. But we can only go through our legal means we have and continue to improve our facilities around the village. And it's certainly something, when you talk about zoning issues, things like that, it's something that we deal with every day. It's a big issue, and especially now with, especially during the pandemic, for small businesses, for homeowners, some not working, some working, some businesses struggling. What we don't want to do is we want everybody to survive and do well. So we'll continue to work on the non-compliance and continue to improve the aesthetics of the village. So just want to let everybody know that we're aware of it. We're going to continue to improve it. Anybody else have anything before council or any? Okay, we'll move on. First item, we have one piece of legislation on. Right now, we might have, Angela will talk about that, another piece though, which will be due with our casualty and liability insurance. Okay, Mr. Hickey will be here probably next week to represent that and talk about it. He did shop it around, but not very successful. So we'll talk about that. So I don't think there's gonna be a big problem. If we have to have more meetings, we can. But with this, Resolution 2021-19, the City of Cleveland Police Radio Agreement, the resolution that we have in front here, we did get a grant. I'm gonna have, and by your request, and it's good for all of us to hear, Shannon Cartier, our dispatch supervisor, who did a great job working with the chief and getting the grant, and just does a great job in the dispatch, staying on top of it. And so we asked her to be here tonight, and you can kind of give us, maybe Shannon, just, and the residents, where the radios, how it evolved, and why we had to go in this direction.
Well, it started out, bi-monthly I go to a meeting with the county, where I meet with fire chiefs, police chiefs, and they were already working on getting the county switched over to, right now we're currently on what we call a 420 radio system, and they were working on getting everybody on this 700 to 800 digital radio system, which works much better. Currently, right now on the 420 system, when the officers go to Alexander and Dunham, they're up at the service department, we cannot talk to them. The radios just don't work, which is a huge liability, because if dispatch can't talk to the police officers and they need help, we can't help them because we can't talk to them. So we started looking at this 700-800 digital radio system. A lot of the cities that were currently on it were very happy with it. There was a grant that was available, so we applied, and we were able to get a portable radio, and it was 2 years ago that we applied, so we were able to apply for a radio for each officer at that time. We got the grant. We finally got the radios. We had to order additional radios because we hired a couple more officers. We needed a radio for dispatch. We needed mobile radios for dispatch. So right now we're still in transition of getting everything programmed. But this is going to help make things better for us to be able to talk to our officers. We are now going to be able to talk to the surrounding cities, because right now the only city that is not on this system and has no plans on going on this system is Bedford. So now we are able to communicate with Macedonia, Valley View, Maple. So if there's something coming into our town from their cities, we're gonna know about it and be aware of it, and we can respond accordingly. While we were still on the 420 system, we weren't able to do that. Everything was highly relied on dispatch. We did have, back at the old administration and Chief Thelman did purchase an 800 radio for dispatch, but everything had to go through dispatch. So if dispatch was busy dealing with somebody at the window or something on the radio or a 911 call and something was coming into our town, they could miss it. So this will alleviate that problem. It's just safer all around. They are also talking about narrow banding the 420 radios again, which, if for those of you that may not understand narrow banding, you think of a PVC piping and say it's 2 inches and your water runs really good through that, right? Narrow banding is they keep shrinking that PVC piping smaller and smaller. And the smaller it gets, the less information you can get out there clearly. So this is just, it's technology, we need to move forward, and we're going that route, and thankfully we were able to get some money from the federal government to do this.
And I was gonna have you mention too, because this is about the agreement we're gonna have, and that was part of the discussion last Tuesday with the city of Cleveland, and how that's actually financially cheaper than the other agreement too.
So currently with the 420 system, I don't know, it was years ago, way before my time, Bedford and the I think it was Bedford, Walton Hills, and Oakwood. I don't know who purchased it, but somebody or all three of us purchased a repeater, which is up in Maple, and that runs the 420 system. With these digital radios, it's a little more complicated than that. We have to actually have a trunking system in order for those radios to work. I do not know how to do that. I do not know how to program radios. It's actually very difficult to find somebody that can do that. So we had two options. We could go with our MARC system, which is through this whole state of Ohio, which would have cost us $20 per radio per month. And we're currently at 31 radios is what we have, with the threat from the state that they were gonna up that price. And then the mobile radios that go in the cars and that go in dispatch would have been more expensive. So we looked at the Cleveland system, and they were offering a flat fee of $5 per month per radio, and it didn't matter which kind of radio it was. And so we felt that that was, and one of the towers is right here up by the service department, so we have a repeater right here in town. We just felt that that was just economically, it works the same as Mark's. We can't, the only thing that we're not able to do, which Mark's frowns on anyways, is we can't go anywhere in the state of Ohio and our radio works. That's limited to the sheriff's office and the county departments. We don't need that anyways. So that we felt was the best route to go economically for us being a smaller city.
Go ahead.
A few questions. Thanks for coming tonight.
Sure.
You answered, I think you answered the question here. My first question, this contract allows us to use the Cleveland system, to use their repeaters
Mm-hmm.
and
Yes.
their infrastructure,
Yes.
their radio trunking system to go regional.
Yes.
Okay, so that's what we're paying
It
for.
it also pays for any programming that we need done.
Okay,
so-
and program.
And programming.
Of our radios.
Correct. Which is something that we're not gonna do very often because we'd have to reprogram every radio.
Right.
And that's what's taking so long right now. He's kind of a one-man show. So he's programming those radios right now. Otherwise, if we did not sign the contract with Cleveland Radio, we would have to outsource our programming. And
Okay.
that can get relatively expensive. It also, I have worked with different companies, and they're not as, they're faster, but they're not as reliable. You usually have to go back multiple times to get things fixed. Where with Cleveland Radio, as of right now, I have not had to have anything fixed.
Okay, and another question, you mentioned that the city of Bedford is not on this system?
That is correct.
So, how do we currently communicate with Bedford?
So we're gonna keep our old 420 system because it doesn't cost us anything to use it. So in the police cars, currently, there's what we call a learn radio that is not being used anymore. So they're gonna pull that radio out, they're gonna put in the 420 radio into the car, and then we're gonna put the new radios also in the cars, and then each officer will have a portable radio that they're going to be assigned for their shift. Dispatch is also going to keep the 420 radio in their console, so that as far as Walton Hills and Oakwood is concerned, we will still be able to communicate with Bedford.
So each police officer will carry 2 radios with them?
Well, they're going to carry one portable radio, so once they're out of the car, they're gonna rely on dispatch to give them any information from Bedford. But once
Okay.
they're back in their car, they'll be able to listen to Bedford from their car.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions related to this resolution?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Shannon, you said we have a total of 31 new radios. Does that include the ones in the vehicles too?
Correct.
And with what dispatch has?
Correct.
Okay. And essentially, going from this Marks or Cleveland system is like we have to rent the airspace.
Essentially, yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? Residents or anybody in the audience have any questions related to this resolution?
Mayor, the timeliness of it, perhaps it needs to be passed by.
Yeah, it'd be good if we can get it passed by
At the next
emergency
Yeah.
in, next Tuesday's meeting, just because we're trying to get everything up and going, and, it's, unless you think we need more discussion on it. I think it's something that's long overdue, and it's a safety issue at the same time, so I think it's important. I don't know how council feels.
The cost
Question
comes
for
in under
Shannon?
$2,000 for the year.
Yeah, the cost is under 2,000 too, it's,
Mr. Mayor?
yes.
Shannon, do you have an end date of when all the radios will be programmed?
I emailed the programmer yesterday, I believe because it was Columbus Day. He probably was not working. We are just waiting on I emailed him yesterday requesting if we could get the 4 radios for dispatch done ASAP. Because once I have those 4 radios in dispatch, we can start working. The guys don't absolutely need the radio in their car right away. Is it better? Yes. But we can start functioning and start working. Because we got these radios on a grant, we absolutely have to be up and running by December 31st. Because January 1st, the state will come in and could potentially come in and audit us. I have been in contact with the grant people, explaining to them, and they understand. The state is also having an issue getting radios because of COVID and this chip shortage, and so the likelihood of them even doing an audit the first 6 months of the year is slim to none. But we are focused on, I actually wanted to have them up and running by October 1st. So I have 10 of the portable radios in hand working. I have worked with them. I have used them. I dispatch for SWAT, and we actually use those radios. So I have used them. They work perfectly, no issues. So we're just waiting on the 5 extra portables that we purchased and the car radios. Those radios are a little slightly different, so the programmer he had to rewrite the program to suit those radios. That's why it's taking a little longer, so.
So we have.
I don't have an ETA.
Okay, but we currently have at least the 10
yes.
that we are using.
Well, I'm using them.
Okay.
The problem is dispatch cannot talk to them because we don't have,
Right.
and they're not hooked up to the recording system, so the radio's not being recorded, and that is an absolute must,
Right.
In order to be used.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
it sounds like we have some time, but it's something we're gonna need to do. I wouldn't have an issue with this going through next week at the regular council meeting. I mean, and technically, if Shannon's already using it, even just her, we're already using that, airwaves, so.
I mean, we've already, you passed the grant and stuff, basically, we're just asking for the resolution to enter into the agreement with the city of Cleveland.
Right.
And we did our due diligence, it's actually the best, and it actually comes out to be the cheapest. So sometimes that doesn't happen, that you find something, you feel is the best and also has the best price, so we're winning on both ends there.
Mr. Mayor,
Okay,
I have a question for Shannon.
yeah,
Does this work with Akron? Can you communicate with Akron? Are they
So what Cleveland Radio does is they have all of the radio station, or all channels that they have go into our radio. So with Akron, I believe, at least Summit County, from what I understand, because they're not in Cuyahoga County, cannot use the Cleveland radio system, so they have to use Marks. The radio in dispatch does have a Marks license on it. We did purchase that so that dispatch could talk to Macedonia, and that we paid $20 a month for that radio. So I believe Akron's also on the MARC system. So dispatch might have a channel. I've never had to deal with Akron. I've never had to talk with Akron before, and I've been doing this for 10 years. But I'm sure that there's a channel somewhere that we could link up with if we need to. But, yeah, Macedonia was a lot more, we had to make sure we had that.
Right, because we'll do some mutual aid there and stuff.
Correct.
That was the important part for the communities that we do mutual aid with. We gotta be able to
Correct.
communicate. Because we got plenty of problems in this area, just like any other communities.
But going with Cleveland Radio, there, we can talk to every city in Cuyahoga County.
That's the key.
So if something massive happens in downtown Cleveland and emergency management comes to us and says, hey, we know you have such and such equipment, can we use it? Can you provide some bodies, some boots on the ground? Then we can say yes, and they'll tell us what radio channel they'll on, and we have it. We can talk to them directly. That was the whole point of going to this 7 to 800 digital radio, was being able to talk to everybody. If there was a mass casualty or something, even up at the airport, if something happened up at the airport, we could all run up there and go and help and talk and communicate.
Okay. Well, there's a good chance we might have, I'll probably have maybe a COW meeting before the council meeting, so we can also discuss it at that time. Or if you have any questions, direct them to me or the chief or Shannon, be glad to answer them. So we'll have that on next Tuesday's meeting, if everybody's good with that. Anybody else have anything to add to that?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I just wanted to be sure that, I know I saw somewhere, and it might have been the original paperwork, if this is good for 7 years.
This
Yes,
is good.
it's in here.
Yes.
Okay, I
It's
just
a
didn't see
7-year
it in the
contract.
resolution here.
Yeah.
It's in there, it's spelled out instead of written as the number
Oh,
7.
okay. Remember, see?
Yep. Down in section 1.
Oh, yep. It's outside.
Any other questions related to the resolution? Okay, thank you, Shannon.
Thank you.
Shannon.
Thank you.
Okay, item 5, discussion regarding casualty and liability insurance renewal. I'm gonna have Angela talk a little bit about that.
Yep. Okay, so we've reached the time of year when we renew our casualty and liability insurance. Our renewal date is November 1st. There is no grace period to that. Any changes to the policy or to vehicles or buildings that need to be added or removed happens after the fact by a
Amendment.
what do we call it? I forgot what I called it.
An amendment, but there was another.
Yeah, there's a word for endorsement, sorry.
endorsement.
So currently, Love Insurance, our broker, is checking again. Last year we were with Tokyo Marine, which is I think HCCP Ohio. We've been with Ohio Plan in the past. Pat was here last year to give explanation to us that because we've had a lot of litigation within the past 5 years and some ongoing, that plays a huge factor in people's willingness to even quote us, as well as our cost. So we are moving in the right direction in terms of some litigation items having closed the books on those. We do still have something pending, and so hopefully with tomorrow we should have some figures. We did already have a couple other vendors refuse to give us a quote. We will also get our cyber security insurance quoted. It's a separate carrier, so that's also being looked at right now too. And then just a couple, so we'll have legislation for that next week, hopefully. And if we need to have an extra meeting, we can definitely do that to pass that. Or if I have anything sooner, I'll obviously get it out to you for questions. Just a couple notes to the policies as far as exclusions. On regular policies, all insurance companies now will be excluding communicable disease. Okay, so that's an endorsement. shall not apply to any act, error, omission, fact, incident, situation, unresolved job dispute, accident, or any other circumstance arising out of the actual or alleged transmission of a communicable disease. So that's a new clause going in all of the policies. And then on the cyber side of things, cybersecurity side of things, the exclusion would be for cyber loss, and it's an absolute exclusion endorsement. So it reads, notwithstanding any provision to the contrary within the policy and subject to all other terms, conditions, and exclusions, the policy shall not apply to any cyber loss. Most traditional policies are designed when cyber was not a major risk and don't explicitly mention or even consider the cyber risk. So the purpose of that exclusion is to provide a little more clarity of coverage intent with respect to any cyber-related exposures. So those are just a couple, just updates about any policy that we would take on or any village would take on. So if anyone's got questions within this next week, I'm hoping to have some more information tomorrow from Love, and we will have Pat Hickey here at the meeting next week as well to answer questions like we did last year.
I think it's important that we do have them here, not only to explain the renewal, but to also talk about where we are. I think we're moving in the right direction. There's no new litigation. And as you know, that exposure is what really is hurting our premiums. Okay, and well, he's explained it to you. So our exposure has been less. So that's a good thing.
Right, and then I think it's like a 5-year window, so moving forward as our exposure and or any litigation starts to decrease and go away, and we've got a period of time where we've been quiet, then that would probably invite some other outside carriers to go ahead and bid us at that point. And we might have, but we are obviously looking into it. I have asked them to get however many bids they're able for us.
And that's his job, as our broker, to get the best coverage at the lowest rate. So that's what he does, is shop around for us. And then health insurance,
Health insurance is totally different, that's May. That's a May thing, not now. So
So
that'll be
I know
that'll be revisited in early spring.
Angela, myself, and Ray, we discussed that, because the health insurance, we're gonna have to look at too.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
Angela, could you explain a little bit more exactly what they mean by cyber loss?
I will have to look at our policy to read what's in our actual policy on cyber loss.
We,
good question
Mr.
for
Mayor,
Pat, when he's here
yeah.
too.
I think we upped that a few years ago. I think we upped that insurance, didn't we?
On which?
For the cyber loss. We
On the
never
regular
had it
policy, well,
before.
last year we
No,
just
we-
instituted the cyber policy.
Yeah, we
It's
just
a separate
instituted it
policy.
last year.
Yeah,
Yeah, correct.
'cause
So
we
that's
never
that's
had that.
specific to that policy.
right.
Right.
And it's a separate.
Well,
invoice.
so what I'm reading to
Right.
you, just for clarification, these exclusions I'm reading to you, meaning your package policy will not cover the cyber loss. That's why we have the additional
It's the
cyber
additional,
policy. Sorry,
right.
I probably should have
That's
said
what
that.
you're- that's the
Correct,
problem.
that was very unclear the way I read it. So it's not the cyber policy itself saying we're not covering.
Okay.
Your package policy does not cover any cyber loss. You need to go out for that separate cyber policy, which we did last year. So we've got that, and that's through a totally different carrier. But it is also being bid out right now for us, so. Okay, hopefully that's helped, sorry. Should have probably mentioned it that way. All right, anything about the insurance before we move on to notes?
Anything regarding casualty and liability insurance that we do at this time? Okay. Anything from the audience?
No questions yet
Yeah,
here.
there's a thing I forgot about, any questions from?
No,
our-
I'd let you know.
I know you know. Okay, good.
Okay. So number 6 is gonna be about, it's that, also that time of year when we refund our notes. And, notes are taken out with the intent of being project-specific. So prior to Dunham Road, each year, we do a refunding ordinance. We've got original notes out for traffic signals from 2015, road construction from 2015, some traffic signals from 2009, and the building acquisition of the event center in 2016, with various maturity dates on those notes. So what we do each year is, we work with our bond counsel, Bricker and Eckler, and we work with Stifel Nicholas, and we give an amount, you know, that we're going to pay down on these notes, and then refund the difference, so that we still, you know, if we paid everything down, great, that'd be great if we had all that kind of money, but each year we do still need to carry a balance. But the way these work is you basically pay them off each year and then get new money in for it, but that's called refunding on these same projects that have existed already. So, last year we paid down a little bit more than we needed to probably, which gave me a little bit of wiggle room this year to pay a little bit less. So if you recall last year, the refunding note that we took was actually 1.295 million. We had gone, I think, from like 1.4 down to 1.295. And so, so this year, the intent is we're going to pay down 105,000. And I will get all of you on council a breakdown of this. I've just been finalizing some things with Catherine. So basically, the 2015 traffic signals, I'm gonna pay down 20,000, 35 on the road construction, 15 on the older traffic signals, and we do have to pay a little bit more on that building, so 35,000 on that building. I'm gonna refund the difference of that. So that is the piece that, you know, has been carried forward. We're just, each year a little bit less, we're chipping away at it.
And how much did you say for this year?
For this year, I'm gonna pay down a total of 105,000.
105,000.
Yeah. So we will refund, the even to 109, 1.95,000, I believe, right? Yeah.
1,190,000.
Yes, correct, right? 1,095,000, I think, let me do my math here. I just changed it, I was trying to pay down only the 95 to make it even 2 million that we were gonna refund. But we needed to pay a little more on that building, so I added 10,000 to that building. Yeah, so we're gonna take off 105 of it, so.
1,190,000.
295.
Yeah, she said 1.2.
Right, so it'll be 1,190,000 that we're refunding. And basically rolling, so to speak, if you want to think of it that way. Does anyone have now, what will also be included in our legislation? I anticipate the check to come from the county for the Dunham Road project. We do still have one payment to make to them, but the paperwork was all submitted by Joe. I asked early last week, do we have an idea of how soon? And they said probably within 3 weeks. So my anticipation is that, yes, that does need to be paid off because that was project specific, project's over. So my anticipation is it will get paid back in its entirety, the 2.6 million, prior to November 18th, which is the date that all of our transactions take place on these notes in the bank. But just to cover ourselves, should the county be lagging, part of our refunding ordinance will still contain that 2.6 million. That's so that we don't have to go back and try to hurry up and pass legislation at the last minute if the money's not here. So when you see legislation, it will show 3,790,000, because that's still including Dunham in there to say, hey, in case we need to roll this and the money's not here to pay it back, we're covered already. Knowing that if the money's there, I'll let you know, hey, we're paying it all back. And then that way we've taken less than what we've approved, obviously, in the refunding, okay? So let's tackle questions on the refunding before I talk about any new money.
Yeah, Angela, I have a question.
Yes.
Can you repeat what you said about Dunham Road having to be paid?
Yes, every
in
note
full?
is project specific, so since that
Right.
project had a timeline, where all these other notes are ongoing that we had, traffic signals are ongoing, the road construction, the building, that's all ongoing with a later maturity date, because the project was set to wrap up within that year, that gets paid back in its entirety. You can't take any of that money and use it for anything else, because it was taken out specifically for that Dunham Road construction,
Okay.
so
Well,
you don't roll that.
I guess where I'm unclear is the amount of the project, the total dollar amount of the project
Yes,
exceeded what the county will reimburse and Maple Heights.
our
owes.
out-of-pocket was estimated to be 778,000 roughly on that.
So you're
So we
saying,
may come in still even a little bit under that.
so are you saying that our 700,000 portion must be paid out of pocket this year?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to
Everything
get
gets
to.
paid
Right.
all, you know, we took the lead on the project, so, you know, there's nothing else. Once we're done with Dunham and I get that check, we pay back the note, we're done with Dunham. That's it.
So even though,
Maple's been paying me back, county needs to pay me back,
yeah,
I now pay the note back.
so even though the life expectancy of a road like that is
Mhm.
probably 20 years, we're tied to paying it
Well,
off
here's
in 1
the
year.
thing. Yeah, so the maturity on it is 2040, but the project itself is done. So if we wanted to keep taking money for that, what would be the purpose? We can't use it for anything else. Do you get what I'm saying?
It's your money.
If we had made it for roads in general, then yes, we could roll some of that and say, we're gonna work on other things, which will get me to the new money in a little bit here. That money could never be used for anything else regardless, so since it's over and done with, it needs to be paid back. Because it didn't have a broader scope than the Dunham Road project. Does that make sense? It would be, you know what I mean, so that, there would be no point in rolling that once the money's here. The original intent was to pay it back, the money will be here, and if it's sat out there, it's only going to be on our books and prevent us from getting money for anything else we might need. Because it's just gonna be money sitting there in our bank that we gotta go pay back every year that we can't really even use on anything. Yeah.
We'll be able to borrow for other projects.
Right, we would not be able to borrow for other projects. Yeah. It's a stretch to even potentially get the new money that I'm gonna request while that's in the rollover, but we'll see. Because we do also, you know, you end up getting a debt capacity, so you're rated, and when you have a debt capacity, you obviously aren't gonna get money if you're past that debt capacity. So carrying that and not being able to use it for any other project would obviously hinder our debt capacity.
Any other questions related to that? We can come back to it too. 'Cause I know
Okay.
Angela wants to talk about.
Yeah, so I'm gonna pass out a couple things, because there's gonna be 2 new money ordinances that I would like to have. And I'll go, one's gonna be for infrastructure, for the short term for next year here, until we come up with some other ways to get funding. And then the other will be for, roof on the village hall. So we'll go over the infrastructure first. This is, and I apologize, this is tiny. I know, Joe sent it, I didn't intend on printing, it's tiny even in landscape form. And I didn't intend on printing it in portrait form, sorry. So remember I gave you all last year the road conditions, which are on the back of here. Nothing's changed with those. This is all of our side roads and some of our main roads. In here, we have done a plan, a 5-year plan. So Joe and I met last week. We updated our 5-year plan. So what you're looking at on top is 2022. We all know we have to do that horseshoe. We were granted money from the sewer district to do the water main, which is gonna require a complete repaving of the
Which
horseshoe.
expires when?
Which expires in 2022. We have to do it, or we lose that, and we don't get the water main either. So on here is our regular road program for crack sealing and things like that. It is also got our asphalt resurfacing, so some of the things in here are things we're gonna get grant money for and are gonna be net zero to the village. But for next year, the estimate out of pocket for us, which the largest part is that horseshoe resurfacing, is gonna be $362,000. $362,000, did I say that? No, I'm sorry. Okay, so, you know, if you look at this while you're at home, you're gonna see that we need like about 500,000 roughly each year budgeted for infrastructure going forward, because it's been pushed to the wayside for a long time. So my intent is to ask for 400,000 in new money strictly for roads, and I'm gonna give you a little synopsis of what the verbiage will be like, so that we are covered on anything you see on this page for 2022. Okay, so I give our bond counsel everything we're gonna plan to do with this, and then they throw it into the legislation for me. So authorizing the issuance of notes in the amount of not to exceed 400,000 in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of improving Dunham Road, Walton Road, Egbert Road, Sagamore Road, Alexander Road, and other streets located within the village between certain termini by resurfacing and replacing concrete together with all necessary appurtenances thereto. That covers, they don't like to hear the word crack sealing, okay, you're not gonna put that in your legislation. But that covers us for maintenance as well as that complete resurfacing in the horseshoe. So this way, it's a little bit broader scope to cover everything you see on this 2022 project sheet that Joe and I had put together.
So Angela, we would basically we're taking out debt so we can try to get our roads.
Absolutely. You know you're gonna need to do that horseshoe, that's 257,000 alone. We don't have another plan of attack right now to get that done. And knowing that we budgeted for a modest surplus this year, it is my feeling that taking out the new money and making sure we get that, especially that horseshoe, if you want to go down in amount, we can, that's something you guys can think about. But we have to start somewhere, and there's a couple side roads on there as well. You'll see that Jefferson, Somerset, Delwood, McClellan area up at the top for the crack sealing and that type of thing. We gotta start somewhere. I do have other plans to speak to everyone about later for trying to be able to come up with and earmark some money for infrastructure, but for next year, it's budget time, so we need to have a plan.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, go ahead.
So next year, your blanket legislation was for 400,000?
That's for roads, for
Yeah.
this, for infrastructure specifically, for this, yes.
Our
And I'm just giving,
planned expenditures, 362, you're gonna ask for.
I'm asking for a cushion just in case.
Okay, so that's gonna be, are you planning on having us roll that over, one-year notes?
So it's gonna
And
work
then
just
roll
like
that
your
over
other
just like
notes
we
for
do
road
it?
construction have. It will have a start date of 2021, and then your maturity on that would be another 20 years later. So
we
it would add to,
roll that
right,
over
exactly, so we
every
will
year.
roll that unless we come into a big windfall. We will roll that just like the rest of these are.
Okay, what I'm concerned about, and if you could put this together, you know, I know we have to add the debt, but I'm concerned in the simplest form in our yearly payments out of our budget. The actual, what's
Yes.
going to come out of our budget every year to pay for all this stuff.
Sure,
And we gotta be able to cover that.
yeah, so I can
So-
get you a little
so-
schedule of what that could look like.
Yeah, what that looks like.
Because each year, there is certain amounts we would have to pay back at least amount of this
Correct.
amount, and then we can go over, like last year we
So
paid back
that's what-
more.
Yeah, that's what I
So,
would
yeah.
like to see.
Yep.
What we're adding to the budget, so we
You got
can
it.
plan for that.
Correct.
Because we're looking for 400, this is a 5-year plan?
This is your 5-year plan.
5-year
but
plan,
you're-
400,
That's for just 2022.
oh, I know,
That- Yeah.
that's $2 million if we're gonna ask for,
Well, no, I'm not doing this every
400,000.
year. There's other plans in my head for other years, but that's gonna require an infrastructure meeting
Okay,
and me to present to you what the plans are for coming up with infrastructure money.
all right.
Yep,
This is.
this
some-
is for now.
Yeah, we know we approved, or, I mean, we don't have to go forward, but we requested those grants to
Right.
replace the water mains in the horseshoe. And when they do that, you really should pave the road, because they tear.
Yeah, you have to, you're gonna
You know,
have to.
they're gonna
Right.
tear it up, otherwise we'd be piecemeal, so.
So if I get you the paid down amount and say each year it's gonna look roughly like this, and you think that's not comfortable, in addition to what we're already, paying each year
Right.
and the maturity dates, I'll give you the whole schedule of it. You can always come back and say, let's just take that horseshoe money, or 250, you can ask me to do less, we can certainly go do less, just knowing that we may not get to the other items. So like, the other big ticket item on here, out of pocket, is with our county road maintenance, which we get some of that grant funded. It's 75,000. And then we had another, I think it, oh my God, I can't even see it, it's so small, I should have brought the glasses.
Wait.
80 up, is that 30 or 80 up top for the,
That's 30.
okay, sorry, I could have brought my readers in.
That's 30.
So those other two items there, we do that county maintenance and get that grant, that preventative maintenance each year. So, and like I said, I can drop it to 350, if, you know what I mean, I'm sure we can probably come up with the other 12 of this, but in my mind, thinking we don't know, once we go out to bid for things, what costs will be. And having discussed with Joe, that's where I came up with the 400,000 figure, just as a
And if
little bit of a
whatever,
picture.
we can still use it for repairs, I mean.
Absolutely, so that
earmark.
left it open to, when we roll that, we can now maybe take less in the next year, or if we're even taking any for roads in the next year, or pay down more if we didn't need all of it.
Mayor Colgrove?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I had a couple of comments and questions. You know, I like the thought of the 400,000 being budgeted for next year, perhaps even more. My question, though, is as it relates to the horseshoe, I know we have approved, well, we have been awarded a grant for Tulip only. Do we have any update as to Hickory and Chestnut for the water main replacement?
We can check with
Because
Jill
it
on
would
that.
it would not make any sense to me to pave that entire horseshoe and still have to come back later and do the water main replacements on Chestnut and Hickory out of pocket. So it sounds like if we do not receive grants for Chestnut and Hickory, do we consider the water main replacement first
Sure,
ahead of the repaving?
yep, let's ask Joe.
Mr. Mayor, I thought Joe said that towards the beginning of the year, he would know better the status of the grants
Yeah.
applied for.
I apologize for that. Me and Mr. Whedon talked yesterday, and I meant to get
See
an
if I
answer
can
from
text
Joe
Joe.
today, so I apologize for that. Because I was telling Mr. Whedon, I think when last time we talked about it, is he didn't have an answer, but they kind of get a feel for it. They kind of know what's being awarded in the other cities, and it was looking very good. And that's why he kind of wanted us to get rolling on it, but we'll confirm that.
All right, we'll see if he responds. I'm gonna ask if we have any information on those water mains, and if not, we'll get with him tomorrow for sure.
Yeah, then we can put a memo out. I'll have him put something out, email us, and I'll throw something in our boxes, so we won't, we're not gonna get it the day of.
Yeah,
Right. Similarly, a question on the Alexander Road.
right, so that Alexander, we've spoken
Application.
about
Hold on a
recently,
minute. Go ahead.
The Alexander Road grant application with Ohio.
just went out.
That just went out.
So if you remember, we applied, we've got our grant money from the county already in hand theoretically. We applied for OPWC funding 100% in grant form, and we were denied. What we've done now is the application goes out to take 50% of it in grant funding and 50% of it as a 0% loan for 20 years, an OPWC loan. So that's where that would leave us on that project. Again, if we don't get the OPWC approval, which we have a higher likelihood since we're asking for half and half in loan and half in grant, then that would be revisited, because obviously we tabled the project this year because we didn't get we didn't get OPWC approved. But if we were to get that, that's gonna be net zero to the village in the immediate. Because we already got $250 from the county, we would get the other $250, half grant, half loan from OPWC. That would be zero to us in our actual budget in the immediate, other than adding a little bit. Adding a little bit.
We're gonna have to start paying.
Well, absolutely, it's a 0%, and our OPWC payments on all of our projects combined are minimal. So, yeah, twice a year we pay, but they're minimal.
I know the infrastructure it has been discussing, and us as a whole, a council, some of the other roads, so.
What Joe and I also did, just to give
so
you
I
a
know
little.
Angela's been looking at other avenues.
Yeah, what I'm gonna do eventually here is get you guys an updated, while Joe was here, we kind of went through here, like, oh, we can cross this off, because Dunham's done, cross this off, and then we did projections while we were going through here of what years we'll get to some of these side roads, going through everything that was in fair to poor condition, poor and fair to poor condition. There may be some things down at the bottom, obviously in good condition, that we don't need to touch in the next 4 years, because they've been recently done. So I will get that to you guys soon as well, and put those projected years of tackling those side roads in there.
One of our biggest issues, which I'm sure.
Yeah, we're
everybody-
trying.
Our secondary
trying.
roads. And I'll just repeat it, we get no money for them, so any repairs or anything we do to our secondary roads comes out of the village bottom line, out of our bank account. But we know they need to be done, and I know this council has talked about it, you know, that we're trying to do what we can, we balance the budget, but at the same time, we know we're gonna have to bond it out or do something else if our revenues don't increase enough to cover those expenses.
Right.
Because it's been, they just get worse and become more expensive.
Any other questions about infrastructure part?
Yeah, I just have a question. Is it possible to get this document electronically so I?
Oh, absolutely, and I'm gonna
Oh,
see if
yeah.
Joe can
Blow it
send
up and
me,
read it. It's,
Joe's
this is
PDF
really
he
tough.
sent me was kind of shady too, it's looking rough, so I'm gonna see if he can send me the original Excel, so that it looks a little cleaner for, because yeah, it's hard for me. We're struggling over here. He had updated it and forgot to send it right before we met, so when he did send it after, I was like, oh, okay, I had a hard copy in front of me already then that was legible. But yeah, I'll get you that update again. Like I said, nothing changed with the road conditions, but we just kind of tweaked some things on this, on the 5-year plan, that's all. I should say Joe tweaked them and then I kind of went through with him and agreed. Any other questions on the infrastructure piece before I pitch my next batch to you?
And we can always come back to it if you think it's something.
All right, I'm gonna pass out one other
Did any
thing.
residents have
Any
anything to
residents?
do with? Okay,
No questions on here so far either.
okay.
All right, so I don't think it's any secret to anybody who comes to Village Hall that anytime it storms, you see pieces of our roof all over the ground. So
Thank
we
you, Dan.
have been in desperate need of a roof for this building and the, you know, across the way building there for some time. In 2016, I believe, an inspection and recommendation was done, and like the infrastructure, it's another project that's been just getting pushed to the wayside. So, Rob is reaching out, and this is just very preliminary stuff I'm giving you, but I'm giving it to you just to give you an idea of where I came up with my figures again. Yeah, there's a company called Garland Company, and they kind of go out and do bidding for you and do specs on roofing and what kind of roof we need, how long the guarantee should be on it, you know, and if we decide to work with them, we worked with them in the past, so that's why this came up. So I'm giving you a basic synopsis. On this front page, you're gonna see the two buildings. There's a little letter from Rob about it. I didn't give you the 22-page document from Garland, that's just kind of like what they do, so that can make that available to all of you as well.
And Rob's, he's available, just,
Yeah, he was on.
we just wanted to talk about the finances right now. I mean,
Right.
I think you're all aware of the condition of the roads,
Or
so.
I'm afraid one day I'm gonna come in and there's gonna be no roof above me, to be honest with you. So this gives you a basic, you know, just.
It isn't that bad.
No,
Yeah.
well, it's blowing all over. Synopsis of like our roof itself, the structure of the roof, and what it entails, material-wise. And so a general budget number that was given to us on a 30-year leak-free, warranty-covered for labor and material roof. This is just, we're throwing this out there. It's gonna be between $365 and $395. $395,000, up to that much. So, again, this is something for you to mull over. We can decide to not move forward with new money on something like this and wait. I feel eventually, if we're gonna earmark other money for infrastructure, we're gonna need to figure out how to come up with the roof money. So, but that's where that, so it's gonna be, it would be another $400,000 that I asked for. And this will also be a little bit broad to cover other buildings potentially. So if we came in way under on our roof here, but needed something at the event center or the garage, that would be covered in the legislation to say, okay, we do have some leftover, let's make sure we repair or do what we need to on the others. So let me just read you what that one's gonna say. That's there, where is it? Here it is, okay. All right, so on the roof one, it would say authorizing the issuance of notes in the amount not to exceed $400,000 in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of replacing the roof of Village Hall and other public buildings in the village. That covers us to where, again, if we come in way under, we took it, we come in way under, but God forbid something happens to one of the other roofs, now we can circle back to those other roofs instead of having to pay off because we're done with it, you know. So some food for thought, because it is another big necessity here at Village Hall to get this roof replaced.
But I will tell you this, it might be a moot point If things, a lot of commercial roofs are more than a year out right now, manufacturing the product.
True.
Even for a roof this
True.
size, which means if we got an estimate,
And you have to
let's
wait.
say tomorrow, and we approved it, that doesn't mean they're gonna start it in 2022. There's a good chance it might not start in 2023. So with that
Right, but you wouldn't-
discussion, I know, but I'm just saying, that's why you'll have to, I know you could spend it later, but I'm just,
Well, no, meaning you wouldn't want to not have it, I guess is my thing. In case they say, oh, now we have all your materials and you
it's just
didn't
a
have it.
very, it's just,
But no, for sure, on the construction materials, we're still kind of in that holding pattern.
they can't even.
And those are some things we can ask Rob as well, to see like what's the likelihood of getting quoted and a roof put on within the year.
It's not the labor part, it's the material.
Yep, yep. You know it. Any questions about that part?
Is it going to be a metal roof?
No, it's
No.
not metal.
No, it's a built-up roof.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be a metal roof.
Like it is now. Rubber.
It's a modified membrane, what you got
Yep.
here with the mineral, so it's like what they call a built-up roof.
And you'll see in here from that prior inspection, like a little example of what a budget plan was to try to get, you know, estimates for getting a roof done, if you got it quoted in these different years.
What it would be like large sheets, they're very thick, they're like a rubber thing. It's not a
Right.
plastic, it's not a TPO or anything like that, at least according to this, what he's got here.
Yep.
But that doesn't mean we're not gonna look at other options.
Correct. And it does say on here, due to the labor and material shortages, the price will vary depending on time of year the project is bid. And it's a challenging project because it's a flat roof deck with limited drainage. So lots of factors in play, and Rob can certainly, he was off yesterday and today, but we can certainly have him come speak.
Right.
Mayor Colgan?
Yes.
So and listening to this, this roof project, potential project and need, and the dollar amount, 365,000 to 395,000, however, material may not be available to 2023. If we, for conversation's sake, should that material be available in 2022, and we were looking at doing this project and the horseshoe project would be in that 600,000, 700,000 range for 2022. I would like for us to consider, since we already know that this material may not be available to 2023, taking a good hard look at that 600,000 in order to take care of Barclay Estates and the horseshoe, should we have the water main replacement, and let's get Barclay done in 2022, since we're already talking this
We
600.
don't have a plan to completely repave Barclay.
Well,
if
what I'm
that's
saying is
you're
we're already
asking.
talking the $600,000 figure, and you have on this schedule Barclay Estates for 2023, and the 300 and whatever that dollar amount is. Let's really take a hard look at prioritizing Barclay Estates for 2022 and try to get that done.
I don't know that that's going to happen. There are spot repairs scheduled for Barclay Estates for 2021 with our program now,
No, on this,
but your complete resurfacing,
right, is 2023.
And that's, what is
Which-
that, 300?
that is completely out of pocket to us, correct? And that's,
Correct. Same as the roof, will be completely out of pocket.
Right, or same as Tula,
Or
and
two.
Hickory and
Right.
Chestnut.
So I just think before we, while we're in this discussion on,
I guess I would say either we would not do the roof and not take extra money right now. I don't think I would say let's throw in Barclay Estates to that.
well, the reason I'm saying, we're saying that the material for the roof may not be available till 2023 anyway.
It may not, but I'm just putting it out there this way. If you now throw Barclay Estates in and say, oh, let's up our infrastructure and take more on that, now we may not have the ability to go back and borrow for the roof when it's time. I'm not saying you have to do the roof now. I'm not saying not to hold off because of materials potentially. But I don't think the answer is throwing Barclay into the 2022 new money and adding to the new money strictly for side roads, because I do have other plans to come up with your infrastructure money that I need to pitch to you at some point. So I'm trying to not keep us out in debt for infrastructure every single year. this is my quick fix because it's budget time, and we're gonna lose out on that grant if we don't get that horseshoe done in 2022. You know, things can't move quick enough sometimes on the finance end,
Right.
you know
But
what I'm saying, so,
I know, I guess what Ray
It's
is
not an
saying,
even
though, I
exchange.
get it, if we were,
Flip flop it up.
right, what we were saying is, because if we were going to budget in 2023 for more paving, and that's what you're saying, what's the difference?
well, the difference is gonna be this, what I come up with for you is gonna, if it's gonna be earmarked for infrastructure, it's gonna have to be infrastructure, not roof, not anything else, so there won't be able to be a swap.
Oh, okay.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Because the bond won't allow that.
Well, right,
Well,
once we would pass legislation potentially to do what's in my head, to earmark infrastructure money each year, it's not gonna be able to be used for anything but infrastructure.
Mr. Mayor? If,
But-
if
go
we
ahead, go
could
ahead.
have, either an infrastructure meeting with Joe available, or if he could come to a COW meeting, because I would like to know how he's juggled some of these streets around and why. Like Fern and Logan were originally slated for 2021, now they're being pushed to 2024. And there's some other ones too, so can
Well,
we
this
either
is-
get an infrastructure meeting with
You
him?
can
or
have him
him-
come
Oh,
to
you-
go over.
yeah, that's not a problem.
Yeah, he can
But
come
this,
over.
I don't think this is the 2020 report.
She's looking at the main sheets. She's looking at what I gave you in this.
Yeah, right here.
Earlier this year.
No, this,
Yeah,
these
Angela
sheets.
Yeah,
said
that's
that
the-
they updated,
Yeah.
Joe
Right.
Joe
That's a 20
updated some of those streets.
Yeah.
So that's why.
Right,
it's
but that's her
changed.
question, why
Right,
wouldn't
but
he?
No,
that's
no,
what
no,
I'm
no, but
saying.
my point is, I think this is I don't think, this is the 2020, it hasn't changed. This is
Right.
the 11,
You're looking at
26.
2022 here. Right, so nothing changed on your road condition sheet.
And that's what Jennifer's looking at,
Jennifer's
right?
looking
You're
at
looking
now.
at,
She's looking
She's
at when we
looking
No,
planned
I'm
on
looking
tackling.
at the
Okay.
schedule.
On this.
The project schedule.
yeah, I got you, on the
Schedule.
project.
Which I apologize, I should remember, we went over all of this in detail, Joe and I, but I was trying to focus on what I need for next year, so he can certainly come
So
talk
Yeah.
to the
That's why,
updates.
yeah, I would just like to know, how did some of these get pushed like further back that were supposed to
Probably
have already
based
been
on,
done?
Based on-
where we're gonna get grant funding, where we're not, what
And the size of them.
size of the road.
The size was a big thing.
Absolutely. If
Right.
it's a side street that has a dead end or that is not, has 4 houses on it, that's gonna get bumped, of course, because that's not as big a priority as a whole development.
Right.
So
No,
that kind of
I
thing.
understand that.
Because I think
Yeah.
our Barclay quote, we had it a few years ago, was 495, if I'm not mistaken. Because the problem with Barclay, which we all know, is the base, it really, I mean, it needs to be completely redone. You can't just put what do they call it, a mill, a
Right.
layer or whatever.
Yeah,
The
you're not
base
just gonna
is-
strip a layer or two.
The base is bad. Yeah, why don't we do this?
We do have, Lee Nielsen said, is there consideration for using roofing contractors who reside in Walton Hills? I imagine when a bid goes out, that would be a possibility if they do commercial
They could
roofing.
bid the job.
Yeah, if they do commercial roofing, they could bid the job when the bids are opened up.
Yeah, just let her know that, yes, Mr. Nielsen, it would be a bid project, and they would have the right to bid it, like any business, and it's advertised. We follow the whole bid process, and then we have an opening day, and they look at it. So, yes,
Mayor?
anybody can bid on the project.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that Councilman Spitznagel and I were kind of side chatting over here to Councilwoman Allen and to Chairman Linville. We both were talking about, infrastructure committee meetings, so we can really talk about these things in depth, take a good look, get, Angela's expertise on how to finance what we may, consider, as well as Mr. Gelati in here, and to just kind of, try to dig in a little bit deeper on some of these items.
If we can do it soon, sooner the better, because pricing for notes is November 3rd, and I have so I have a cutoff of the end of the month if I'm gonna take new money. Not that I can't go take it later, but then you're paying for bond counsel and everything all over again, so knowing that it was the time of year we're gonna do this, that's why I'm bringing it up now. So if we can have one, the sooner the better, just so we know what we're doing going forward. If I say, no, I'm not taking any new money, then nothing's probably getting done next year on any of these.
But you could still go after money. That time deadline is for our existing notes, but we
Well, it would be-
we would
You
have to
can,
pay
Mayor,
for
but
the
you're gonna
bond
be,
counsel again, I understand that.
exactly. It's a
Right.
whole other process again, and you're just out more money on your
Oh,
end,
I
doing
understand.
it not all at once.
But it's not like it's a closed door, I just wanna make
Well, no, but for 800,000, I think it would not be worth the money we're gonna spend on
Right.
bond council and everything to do it at later in the year.
Well,
May I be excused?
Yes,
May I be excused?
yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, if Councilman Whedon and Councilman Spitznagel can arrange for an infrastructure meeting, I know Tuesdays, and Councilman Winville, but he needs to be excused for a moment. Tuesdays, I know for Councilman Spitznagel and myself, are usually always open, so.
Yeah.
He's looking now. I'm the.
Well, you guys can work that out, we'll work that out. We'll work that, what we'll do is, we'll plan a COW meeting in front of Tuesday's meeting, too. That will give us more to talk about, too. I'll have Joe come to that, too. And then, any questions that come out of that, we'll go to the infrastructure, too. So we'll have Joe come Tuesday.
Yes.
Well,
I don't know if
Pat
he
can
answered
be
me.
there.
Let me see if he answered.
We'll have if Joe's available, I'm sure he will, but
He did not answer on the other question, so we'll reach out to him tomorrow about coming to the meeting.
all right, we'll see. Did you want to, or you want to
No,
talk
I'm-
another time?
I'm done with all of that if no one has any other questions. My part's done.
Did residents, any residents have any questions related
Lee
to?
Nielsen did also ask, do we give Walton Hills contractors preferential consideration? So you can't give preferential consideration when it's a project this large that needs to be bid. You can open it up and make sure everyone's aware, as we do, and we post in all the local newspapers when there's gonna be a bid opening. But yeah, you can't hand select on projects of this size to give preferential treatment to someone just because they're a resident.
Yeah, it's not a point process.
Yeah. It would actually be illegal.
Any other questions related to that? Okay. So item 7, other business. Right. I think a while back, you remember, of course, it was very sad when we lost Aro, our police dog. At that time, we talked about putting a proclamation together. There was things going on with COVID at that time. I know the chief and Mike Gervasi, our sergeant, was putting stuff together. So we're hoping maybe to have a proclamation next Tuesday. Before we had a resolution, but the resolution was at that time, of course, to transfer. Aro was actually working, we'll say, not a possession, we'll say, he was employed by the village, he was retiring, and he was gonna retire with the Gervasi family. So that resolution at that time is gonna release him from the village and allow him to go to his forever home, his retirement home. But that unfortunately couldn't happen, because he passed away while working. So so it changed now to a proclamation. So we're hoping to have something for that next Tuesday. Let's see here. What else should we?
Mayor? Mayor, just for the other business for Angela, I was gonna ask, other than the bonding and all that other stuff, if we could get some sort of preliminary numbers. It's middle of
Yes, you will
October
have
for
preliminary
next year's
numbers. They're-
budget.
I'm like this close to getting them, but I've had 500 interruptions in the last 2 weeks to firm it up for you. So before the end of this week, you will have prelim, as well as I will reach out to Stan and Rob for wish lists, needs, necessities, things like that. As we know, vehicles come up each year. But yeah, I will let you know and estimate with money coming in from Dunham and Maple where we're gonna land
Okay.
through the end of September.
Okay, what was the other thing I had to?
And then that way we can go next week if you want. During COW, we can even go line by, section by section if you've got, you'll have time to look ahead and formulate your questions.
Also, probably we'll put on the agenda a motion, if what council wishes to cancel the November 2nd COW meeting, which is voting day. You know, since that next Tuesday will be our council meeting, if we have a special meeting in between there, you know, I think it'd be right to do it at the council, make a motion at the council
Yeah,
meeting.
I thought we discussed doing that.
Yeah, I think we did.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, we'll put it on there for a
Sure.
motion, and that way we won't forget, and it will be there, and if everybody's in favor of that. Standard practice we've always done, and I know everybody's been always flexible with picking up another day if we have to here and stuff. So if everybody's okay with that, we'll put that on the agenda too. The only other thing I have, unless somebody else has something, we can talk, I know myself and Pat Krasinski talked a little bit this afternoon. We can talk about that a little bit unless anybody else, I was gonna just talk about Veterans Day a little bit. If anybody else has anything?
Yes, Mayor,
Yes.
I have a couple things. First thing is the 50-plus club. We're starting up again through the COVID thing. We've not had meetings for a couple of years.
Okay.
And so we're back, and we're stronger than ever, and we're a little older now, but that's 50-plus. So it's on October the 18th at 1 o'clock. It's here at the community room across the hall over here. And, you know, Priscilla, the president, will be calling people and reminding them. But if anybody that's not a member that would like to be a member, contact Priscilla Motzko. She's in the directory, and she could give you some information on it. The second thing, it's stated in the Journal about Trick or Treat Street, which is October the 30th, the same time as the Halloween party over at the event center. If anyone, as an individual or a group, would like to pass out candy to the kids, contact Natalie so she can arrange for how many tables to have. Thank you.
And I know with that said, I don't know if you want to mention that. So that is the date. I
Sure.
think we've got that pretty much straightened out.
Yeah, I asked, actually, I asked Mary today to be sure that on the marquee outside it says Saturday, because there was a mix-up between the two calendars with the Journal and the Owl, and the Owl had verified all of the information according to the website, but the website wasn't updated
Party got changed.
when the party got changed.
Yep.
So, on the Owl, it shows the Halloween party on Sunday, the 31st, from noon to 4, but it was actually changed to Saturday, the 30th, starting at 5 p.m. So, just to make sure, and that's...
What's in the Journal is correct.
Yeah,
The Journal is correct.
yeah, like I said, when the Owl was doing the proof copy, they verified it against the village website calendar, and that wasn't updated at the time when the Owl was proofing their copy. So, I
Because
did
we
ask...
don't update that until the Journal is, we put the Journal together.
Yeah, so I
So we got
specifically-
that worked out. They
Yeah.
need to,
But I
they need to
specifically,
contact us.
right, I specifically asked Mary today to put Saturday,
Yeah.
the 30th, so that would make people remember, you know, that it would be on Saturday, so.
What was I gonna say? What else? Yeah. Once I hit 50, I'm gonna join that 50-plus club.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I would like to ask the safety committee if they could have a meeting sometime soon, especially since we're discussing budget, because we are looking at any time within the next 5 years, losing 5 police officers. 3 of them, I believe, can actually go at any month right now, that they are already at their total years.
They are.
So it's something that we're gonna have to be looking at and deciding and figuring out what to do when that happens. We need a long-range plan, so if we could meet for that. Mr.
There's
Whedon, I
also
believe,
money that has to
Councilman
be
Whedon.
budgeted for that too.
Correct, and I don't really want to add meetings to my schedule, but if going forward for now to the end of the year, if you'd like to invite me to your meetings so I can give you insight, because obviously I do talk to Stan, I do talk to Rob, and we have hashed a lot of this, you know, out back and forth about what plans are. That might be insightful for you, I guess, if
Right.
you ask if I can be there.
No, that's not a problem, but now, as you know, if an upcoming officers were to leave tomorrow, then what we would do is promote the part-time, and then we would look for part-time officers.
Yes.
And we also we're in the first year of our 3-year contract with a set amount too. So, that's the important part, but I think that's worth, we probably, that's not a problem. No, Ray, as chairman, I'm sure you don't have a problem with that. I have no problem being there too. And, I know we were also gonna, I was gonna share with you too, me and Shannon have been talking about, the 5-year emergency preparedness plan. It's every 5 years. This is the year for it, for our our area, our SEAL group and everything. So we'll talk about that too. I'll have that, forward that to you. Okay. Yeah, just to, I know me and, talk about Veterans Day. I know last week we talked about Veterans Day at this meeting I brought up. I even mentioned that I talked to the former president of the Women's Club, what me and Mary called her, Mary Delansky. She was president that time, and we called her because we were putting a journal together and starting to look for our day for our veteran celebration. And even that meeting, I said to everybody here that she told us at the time you weren't having the pancake breakfast, which is not a problem. But then I talked to Pat today, and she said the Women's Club is in favor of having the thing, which isn't a problem, except she did have a date listed that you guys picked, but that date might not be the date that works for me. I'm in the village here that I have to get somebody to speak, okay? Also, Sundays is normally the day we do it, which I think works out good. But what I told Pat today is, we looked at the dates. I had her on the phone, and I know you probably remember we even talked about, I was debating, since we weren't having the pancake breakfast, about whether to have it on the weekend or have it during the regular day. We used to have it at the regular day when it would fall during the week, and a lot of times we would get very few people. And then when we started doing the pancake breakfast, then we either moved it before, because very few times did it fall actually on Veterans Day. So you either have to have it before or after. And that's when a gentleman came up and said, oh, you shouldn't move the date. You should have it actually on that day. So I was actually, because we're putting a journal together, thinking about having it actually on that Thursday. So I'm glad you made up your mind and came, because if it would have been any later, I would have already had it out in the journal, and it would have been published, and we would have had it on our day. So with that said, the community room, and just me thinking about, I know you guys talked about having it on Saturday the 6th, but we could have it on the 7th, if that would work with you guys. That would be the Sunday instead of the Saturday. And the only reason I said, I think sometimes I think you're gonna get more people. My opinion, I don't know, we can all talk about it. We don't have to discuss it in this form. And in fact, I would rather have you do it like you normally did in the past, meet with or call, and we can, it's not a problem to work it out, because then I'd have the dates and exactly how we have it here. The money, I don't need to hear anything about that. That's not a big deal or nothing. We don't even have to think. So I'm just gonna look, because not that I'm not open this Saturday, but I'm trying to get a speaker, okay? And the problem with that is a lot of people work on Saturdays. Saturdays, you're gonna get the least amount to a pancake breakfast Saturday morning. You're gonna get the most on a Sunday. People like to go after church, or it's just a day that most people, I think, maybe I'm wrong, we all know Thursday would probably be the worst if you're gonna have the pancake breakfast, because that's a regular work day and stuff, and that's why we've always had it before and after. Then I talked to Pat about maybe, when you heard me even last week talk about having it, because we were gonna have the flagpole. The problem with that, after thinking about that, if you have the pancake breakfast, we gotta have it here because we have the memorial here. Okay? We have the memorial here. I hate that we go there and then people wonder why we don't have it in front of the memorial. So, just since they haven't had a lot of time to think about it, maybe a few hours, or, because when I came in at 4 o'clock, you know, I talked to Pat at that time and stuff. So, I don't think the 14th's a good day, because I think after Veterans Day is kind of, not so, it's kind of, if you're gonna have anything, you should probably have it before. And it looks, so, we'll see, so it would look like it could be the 6th or the 7th, I just wanted to be very honest with you. I'm leaning, and not me, myself, I'm just talking about getting it together more like the 7th, okay, which is a Sunday. But then we wouldn't do the flag at that time unless we wanted to go up past people, which I think I would do that another day. And maybe still do that like the 14th or something. So let me, but don't hold me to that, let's just, let's work that out. So, because I think we'll still be okay having it in the room across the hall. I know when me and Pat talked, it's like, the event center's the place to have it, but then, do you think it's right having it up there with the memorial down here?
No.
That's where the problem comes in. Yeah. Okay. So we'll work all that out. You don't need to tell me anything, do anything, you can get with Natalie a little bit, let me get the dates, we'll get it worked out, we'll be able to get it in the journal, and, it will be a good event. Okay? And if anybody knows anybody that, you know, because I try to get, as you know, a resident, because that's the most important thing. It's always nice to get a veteran, and we've been very fortunate, somebody who really wants to do it, and we've had that in the past, and I'm always looking for somebody. If anybody has any suggestions, just call Mary or let me know, because I've started going through the list already. Now, one person who I asked to do it is definitely going to do it Memorial Day. So that's a good thing. Now I don't have to worry about Memorial Day. But, you know, because it's an honor to do it, and you know, people want to make it nice, so they, you know, it's, not everybody volunteers for that. And they get nervous, no matter how old you are, to do a speech, so. And it doesn't necessarily, you know, it could be, remember when we had Mary Brenner do Memorial Day, not a veteran, but just had that great story about her father who landed on Omaha Beach, and it was probably one of the most moving speeches probably ever given, because it was just something, so it doesn't necessarily, if somebody has something that you think would be great for Veterans Day that relates to a veteran, don't hesitate to let me know. You guys have anything more, you want to add anything to that, you're more than welcome, unless you're good.
No, other than thank you.
No problem, Pat, and all of you.
Thank you.
Let's see, what else did I have? Thank you, breakfast. Okay, so for next week, we'll have, City of Cleveland Police Radio Agreement. We'll probably have legislation for the note on there,
Yeah, at least draft, you know.
yep,
Yeah, and insurance.
and insurance. Definitely we'll have the casualty and liability insurance renewal on there. Okay, anybody else have any other questions?
Mayor, are they doing anything for, you said they're giving a proclamation, are they having any fundraiser or anything for, are you doing a plaque or anything for the?
The police have ordered something? Yeah.
Did they?
The department has something that they ordered that they will present with the when we present the proclamation.
Right. Stan, you know, that's kind of his thing, and he's working on it, you know. And we said whatever support we can give you with it, we'd be glad to, and he says he's got it under control, so I'm sure it will be very nice. You know, and I think Mike's ready, you know, like anything, you get attached to a dog like a person. At the time, he wasn't, you know, I think it's a good time now to present it with that. So his family will probably have more people here. We'll probably make it one of the first items on the agenda, you know. So I'll have to remember that too, because if we have a COW meeting first, unless you guys wanted to have it earlier. The COW meeting at 6. That's a pot,
They're
it's,
gonna do infrastructure, leave us some time for that.
well, no, you're not doing infrastructure the same day, are you?
They might, if
Oh, you
that's what's
might.
available for them.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Well, then we'll leave it open. I'll
I
contact
did
him.
tell Mike that we would give him a closer time, so he wasn't sitting waiting.
No, I understand that, because I'm sure they're gonna have their family here and stuff.
Give a, okay, leave your house now.
Yeah, we'll make, yeah.
Well, is there a reason that we need the COW meeting before the regular
Because we're
council?
gonna have added legislation, it would probably just be good to be able
Oh,
to go
just have
through
it
that.
open. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to talk more about
Okay.
some
Yeah.
of those things. We'll think about it. You know,
Yeah, I mean, if the COW meeting only takes 15 minutes or something, 20 minutes, half hour, it's not a big deal, so.
yeah. That's right, with the mic. Okay, we'll work it out.
I mean, I told him we'd give him a closer, he's in Valley View, I can text him and be like,
Yeah.
5 minutes
No, we'll
out,
work it
5
out.
minutes
We'll
out,
work it
get in
out.
your car.
We'll work it out. Maybe we'll say 8 o'clock or something. for
Yeah,
that.
we'll give him a
We'll
definite
work it out.
time.
Okay. Any other comments? Any comments from anybody?
No other comments online?
Okay. Can I have a motion for adjournment?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion for adjournment of the COW meeting of October 12th, 2021.
Second.
Second, vote on the motion.
Councilwoman Allen?
Yes.
Councilman Linville?
Yes.
Councilman Spitznagel?
Yes.
Councilman Whedon?
Yes.
Councilwoman Terlasky?
Yes.
Motion approved. Meeting adjourned at 8:44 PM. Thank you, everybody.